Killing a boss in Dark Souls 3 is one of the best feelings on this earth, and that is only made better by the simple fact that you can eat their souls to collect some super cool items. So guess what? I'm going to be ranking all the weapons that you can get from bosses in Dark Souls 3. Now here's a few disclaimers before I get into the ranking. So this video is my opinion, first and foremost. Just want you to remember that. And this is not ranking the bosses, just the weapons. No, not the bosses themselves. Please do not get that twisted. I'm also not going to be including bows, shields, or even Valor Heart on this list because, one, bows and shields have a little bit different criteria, and Valor Heart doesn't technically drop from a boss soul. So, yeah. With all that being said, let's get right into the ranking. And at number 29, we have Rose of Ariandel. This is genuinely one of the contenders for the worst weapon in the entire game of Dark Souls 3. No, I'm not even kidding. It's on my list right now. It's low, very low. The single Holy Weapon Catalyst Hybrid is a low-range whip that has worse miracle buff, like spell buff, that not only deals damage to you, but also locks you in an uncancelable animations for a few seconds to do it. What kind of skill is that? Like, I expressed my deep hatred for the, the halberd. The one that, blows you up. Yeah, but I still think that this is worse, because at least with the Mad King's Crucifix or whatever, you could dodge out of the way. With this, you have no chance to dodge out of the way. And, worst of all, people can just hit you. Like, you can't use this at boss fights. Ever. Oh my gosh. Genuinely, it is just bad on the skill front. And, as usual with weapon catalysts, very poor damage, very poor spell buff. And when we're talking, like, bad damage, it's only made worse by the fact that this is a whip. Oh, my gosh. There is not a single positive point about this weapon at all, in my opinion. Number 28, the Crystal Sage's Rapier. This isn't a weapon, per se. No, I'm not being weaponist. This thing just isn't a good weapon. It's a hoe, a farming tool, so to speak. I don't really think thrusting swords are loved all that much anyways, and I think when people explain why, this weapon is one of the first reasons. It has all int scaling with a strength soft cap to the requirement. Now that's not bad. It really makes this a casting weapon out of all things, except it really sucks at all of that. It just has bad damage, which is split, mind you, in addition to a little bit heavier weight and boring simple moveset in return for slightly longer range. Oh, and like 50 item discovery, but that is not necessary unless you're Covenant farming. And the skill, that's just the same old basic skill instead of something, cool. Even if this thing has good range, I would just rather use a spear. Number 27, the Firelink Greatsword. This had the potential to be one of the coolest weapons in the entire game, and possibly my favorite, because I love the look of this thing. And then they did the unthinkable. They just left this thing in the hands of the final boss, which only gave it more potential, except they didn't leave it in the boss's hands in a good way. They left it in like a bad way. I don't know why the heck when I pried this thing out of the soul, it left all the power with the boss, but that's frustrating. All this thing did, once I pulled it out of the soul of the final boss, was leave a sour taste in my mouth like a dad heading to get some beer from the local Kmart. This thing is sad. Utterly sad. The skill is meh, it doesn't do much. The weapon damage is meh, it doesn't do much. And you get it from the final boss, not including DLCs. That is a severe letdown and genuinely horrible in so many different ways. Potential sums up everything good about this weapon, and it somehow just never used any of it. Even the skill could have done something cool, and instead we got the frayed blade flames, but orange, and they go less far. Number 26, the Storm Curved Sword. When your mom tells you she isn't mad, just disappointed, it's actually a reference to this weapon. Holy morn, man, this thing is sad. It has long reach, but that is the only positive I can actually give it in good faith. Lower than average damage, a skill that had potential and completely wasted it, a difficult boss fight that gives 2 other rewards far better than this one. I don't think a single build can manage to really squeeze damage and fun out of this weapon without failing a few times. Plus, it's not like you're gonna find it without a wiki and some hopes and prayers. It's cool in theory. Number 25, Lothric's Holy Sword. I don't know who Lothric prayed to in order to get this sword, some like holy power, but he should switch religions because it didn't do squat. No extra HP buffs or anything of the sort, no perma-killing reanimated skeletons, and awful scaling that genuinely makes me upset. Even on a build dedicated solely to this weapon, it will lose to other types, including Sunlight Straight Sword. Oh man, that's just so horrible. Genuinely, you're giving this to the cripple, like that guy, the one who can't do nothing without his older brother walking him around. You're giving it to that guy. You're giving this. And I can see why. If he's using this sword on the battlefield, no wonder his legs got snapped in half like a Slim Jim. This thing is bad. And even if the skill, a very cool skill, is somewhat enticing, it doesn't matter because you can combine this sword with the other and get both the skills on one weapon. Honestly, dude, the skill is the only redeemable thing, and even then, it should have been blue and on the Moonlight Greatsword instead. And yes, I firmly believe that. Number 24, the Dancer's Enchanted Swords. Gorgeous looking is the only upside I can give these. I mean, I can't even say anything else. If I tried to give these another compliment, it would be like a short person trying to grab the fancy glasses for a dinner party. A primarily dex scaling weapon with a slower moveset and genuinely awful split damage that is tied to each sword individually, which means it sometimes won't hit with a certain damage type. That's the type of joke you hear in crappy books. The scalings are all D's and the sword is all dumb. Just do not use it, man. Number 23, Lorien's Greatsword. Despite this being here, I actually respect this weapon, since it's actually somewhat decent. Don't get me wrong, it's still not great, but I have chosen to respect it. Lorien's Greatsword has a big problem that primarily lies in the fact that it can combine with its twin brother to create a better version of both, even if you get it way later, which kind of makes this sword obsolete. It does great damage, it has an okay skill, and it has an excellent quality build niche, but man, it really doesn't hang with many others, especially in the Ultra Greatsword class. It is the worst Ultra Greatsword, and I will stand by that fact for now, even though it's still stronger than a ton of other weapons. Number 22, the Demon's Fist. The only problem that I actually have with this weapon is the fact that it is a fist weapon, which means you're getting less damage and range for tons of speed. Fist weapons are mediocre in this game, and they can feel so very empty with only 3 weapons to its name. I just can't say with confidence that they can excel compared to other weapon categories like straight swords or even the claws, which have more range and damage with very little reduction in speed. Even so, these are pretty cool with a unique skill that doesn't do jack, and I don't really want to place them any higher even with good pyro scalings and a decent damage amount. Number 21, the Profaned Greatsword. This sword doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be competent. And it is, admittedly, pretty competent. It gets 2 C scalings in Dex and Strength, meaning it's not good for a Pyromancy build, surprisingly, but a quality build can actually use this to its fullest with a skill that lets them harness some fire damage. Genuinely, I like this one better than Lorien's Greatsword because of that, since I don't need to upgrade more stats to squeeze all the damage out of it. Plus, the heavy attack on this weapon also adds some fire damage, which is a nice little cherry on top. Or rather, it looks like it should. I don't think it actually adds much fire damage. Now, scalings aside, this weapon doesn't have as good base damage as others to make way for the flat 80 fire damage buff from the skill, which will only get worse as the game goes on. Don't get me wrong, this thing can put in work. It just doesn't do as well later down the line as some of the others, so I'm gonna have to put it here. And number 20, the Old King's Great Hammer. A powerful fire hammer with a new perseverance that not only grants it a buff, but also does damage, and that is nice. Yeah, it's nice, but not great. The skill is the best point of this weapon. It has a high weight and requirements, to be admittedly true, and a rough build type of high strength and pyromancy, which requires very high stat investments. And the skill, to be honest, isn't much in the damage department, just a very little bit. As I said, it is a nice hammer, but it is by no means perfect. Number 19, Yorm's Great Machete. This should have been a curved greatsword, and no, I will not stop saying that. Sure, it is a machete, but like, it's a curved sword looking thing. It literally looks perfect for the curved sword category. So, design choices aside, I love this weapon. It's fun, pretty strong, and has some very cool unique attacks with the Warcry buff. I feel strong using this thing. Even if it's a early, late game item from a gimmick fight, even if it isn't super accessible and another just basic strength weapon, even if it's not perfect, I will love it because I think it is really fun. Number 18, the Twin Prince's Greatsword. The best of both Lothric's and Lorien's sword, with some downsides to boot. It gets horrible scalings with everything, so, you know, I guess that's a thing. And additional fire damage is nice. I mean, decent fire damage in general is nice, and damage in general is great. But this is one of the last weapons you will get in the game, simply because you have to kill Lothric twice to get it. And honestly, it's not that good for all that work. The skill is still the highlight of the weapon, and it still is not super great. And sure, the range with the Lothric beam is cool. Sure, area damage with the fire attack is cool. Sure, it is a great sword. But in the end, it is not gonna beat other options. It really does try to be a jack of all trades with a cool skill, but it ends up being bad at a lot of things with a cool skill. Number 17, the Hollow Slayer Greatsword. I see this sword and the people that praise it, and I have to admit, they are right. But, there's a big but. It doesn't deserve that much respect. Sure, the damage is good, and its extra 20% damage against hollow enemies is downright evil, but there are not that many hollow enemies in the game. For the ones that are hollow, this is a really good option, but otherwise, it's just there. It does have a semi-unique moveset shared with the Drakeblood Greatsword that looks awesome, but it really doesn't do anything special with it. Its focus is on Dex, and it still gets mid-scalings with only a C in Dex at max level. Plus, 264 base damage is acceptable, but not catastrophic. This sword really shines on a quality build, with a total of 516 AR at soft caps. Even so, I still feel like it's heavily overrated because it's a great sword. Please don't kill me. I'll do anything. Please don't pipe bomb my mailbox. Number 16, the Demon Scar. The Demon Scar is really hard to rank because it just has so many strange little benefits that it really does have, but I'm gonna really try here to explain it. The best part about this weapon is the fact that it is made specifically for the Pyromancy class. It has no strength or dex scaling, which means less stat investment, a low weight, which also means less stat investment, and a pure fire focus. Sure, it may not do any physical damage, but the fire damage is pretty good at least. I mean, pure fire damage is pretty nice against enemies who are pretty resistant to physical damage. I have to admit, I'm still a little bit disappointed. Having a Pyromancy weapon catalyst is still really good, since Pyromancers are already busted, but I would have loved more than just this. This thing really just comes down to having a lot of whack benefits and being built for the class. It's real issue is the lack of physical damage though, and the lower spell buff compared to other weapons and catalysts, as all weapon catalysts have. But if that is all you're basing on, I mean, you have a little bit of an issue there. Not every weapon is about damage or potential damage, whatnot. This one really shows that because it's just so flexible. Accessibility is the name of the game with this weapon, and for a pyromancy build who wants pure pyromancy power with, what's the word? More pizzazz, a better experience, or maybe even just a weapon catalyst hybrid, this is an answer to prayer. Number 15, Arstor's Spear. This one is weird for me because on one hand I feel like it's underrated, but on the other I think it's warranted. The special effect of 30 HP per kill is a flat HP gain, meaning it's great in early game when you get it, but it is pretty bad late game. It gets up to a B scaling in Dex 2, and it even has a decent skill. All in all, that is not bad, especially considering it stacks with the Ring of Evil Eye to gain even more HP per kill. I mean, you have to admit, that sounds good so far, but unfortunately, it does have one aspect that is so useless, I can't even find utility for it, and that is poison buildup. Poison sucks. All status effects do in Dark Souls 3, but poison has it especially bad, since it also just sucks inherently. And for that reason, I can't really say poison buildup is a positive, despite it taking nothing away from this weapon. Number 14, the Cleric's Candlestick. This is one of my favorite weapon catalyst hybrids in the game. Nothing can really come close to this thing, for the most part, at least in my eyes. It gets good damage with decent scaling and some powerful magic potential. It's fast, light, and with a low strength and dex requirements, which makes it perfect for a magic caster. It's pretty dang good, all things considered. It does have a useless skill, and its damage and spell buff are nowhere near show-stopping, but it's really good for what it is, especially with an A in intelligence scaling. Number 13, Wolnir's Holy Sword. If you guys watched the original Greatsword ranking, you'll know what I have to say about this weapon. Yeah, I fumbled so bad. I said this weapon was one of the worst greatswords, and I was genuinely wrong because Faith builds literally have this and nothing else for regular greatswords. And you know what? This thing actually has a lot of power. I just somehow did not realize that even on my pure Faith build. It's powerful. Primarily strength or Faith scaling makes it the Faith greatsword. And the skill really demonstrates that idea with a powerful knockback, poise, and damage. It's basically like, force if it actually did damage. And with the Demon Great Axe, you're creating a nuke. But this weapon just takes that and says, no, I am the nuke. At number 12, Vort's Great Hammer. A Great Hammer with Frostbite, with a strength requirement of 30 after the second boss in the game, is the type of villainy I would expect from Dio or Dr. Doofenshmirtz or someone actually pure evil. A Frostbite hammer looks awful, and it's a great hammer. Like, how much slower could you get? A slow moveset with status buildup already means you're getting steamrolled in Dark Souls 3, and no matter how high the numbers are, you will not beat the Ethereal Sword and Rapier and Frost buildup because of their speed. Now, what I just said might sound normal to a lot of you, but to the people who have used this weapon, you know that what I just said is a complete and utter lie. This hammer, is something. I just can't even explain what they managed to do, but they managed to make this be the best Frostbite weapon in the game, except for maybe Freed's Great Scythe, but that thing's just cruel and unusual. This thing has a 30 strength requirement at the beginning of the game, which sounds awful on paper, and it is, but you can actually two-hand it to reduce that strength requirement a little bit. And honestly, that's an interesting choice. FromSoft, interesting choice. I argued that this hammer was bad originally, and then I actually tried it out and I realized that I was completely wrong. So I'm sorry for everyone I offended with that, but also for you who doubt this weapon still, just try it out. It genuinely can change everything about how you experience this game. Number 11 is the Dragon Slayer Sword Spear. It's good, just good. I don't know, man. First, you're getting good physical damage with some meh lightning damage on the side. That's pretty nice. The skill, it actually summons lightning down from the sky, which is excellent for range and damage, and even gives you a lightning buff. That's pretty nice. But the real thing about this weapon that makes it shine is the moveset, which is very different from the normal spears. It actually uses some attacks from the halberd weapon category, specifically the light attacks of a halberd when two-handed and the heavy attacks when one-handed. Now, it's nothing insane, but having that diverse moveset on a spear means that this thing actually has really good damage and can do really well in groups of enemies where spears tend to do worse. Having good AoE attacks with a spear is just a very nice utility. And I mean, just look at the stock. It basically does this, but for swords. And if you want a spear example, check out the Partisan. It does the exact same thing. Honestly, this is a very good weapon, and I can't say anything that terrible about it. Number 10, Demon's Great Axe. Napalm. If what I just said is the subject of your wet dreams, great news, the Demon's Great Axe is your go-to weapon. You have a powerful fire AoE skill, good fire and physical damage, and low requirements for a pyromancer. Wait, what? No, okay, no, maybe not the last thing, but honestly, that's my massive problem with this weapon. Having a really good skill and powerful damage is nice, but it is locked behind a heavy strength requirement that pyromancers aren't going to want to build for. I know some who would, but for most of you, you would want dex instead for a casting build. Hence, I can't really put it at the top, despite its very prevalent strengths. Number 9, Gale's Greatsword. Gale's Greatsword is a super fun weapon, with great damage types and an excellent normal moveset that takes advantage of its Greatsword status. And with that being said, I ranked this one just a little too high in the Greatswords video, simply because Gale is freaking awesome, and this sword is too much fun to use. Seriously, I will love this thing no matter what, but it should not have beaten the Wolf Knight's sword, especially since the Wolf Knight's sword just also has a really fun skill. Now with that being said, I do still believe that this is an excellent quality weapon, with 505 at AR at the combined soft cap, and that is not accounting for any kind of opponent weaknesses that actually can be exploited by this weapon, since it does both strike and thrust damage. This is a good weapon that I still personally love, even with seemingly very low scalings. Number 8, Gundir's Halberd. The only halberd on this list, and it is pulling some serious weight being at number 8. Holy crap, dude, this thing knows how to represent. Gundir's Halberd is an easily achieved weapon if you know about the secret area, and it also happens to be pretty dang strong. But why does it deserve this spot? Well, easily. Genuinely, it's pretty easy to answer. You're getting heavy damage at soft caps with a combined 516 AR, a B in strength scaling, and this is a primarily strength scaling weapon with a charge attack that not only closes distance and can knock opponents down with a wide AoE sweep, but also has the ability to actually deal more poise damage on hit compared to other weapons. Yes, that's right. You have tons of benefits from a seemingly basic weapon. Oh, and did I mention that it's also one of the longest weapons in the entire game? The skill even can pivot super fast for a charge skill, making it a really good maneuvering tool. So yes, this weapon is good. Side note, it also has 500 durability, so if you're worried about your weapon somehow breaking, which it won't, then this weapon is practically guaranteed to stay firm even in the longest of boss fights. Number 7, the Moonlight Greatsword. If you're a pure intelligence build, This is the best greatsword with no questions asked. It has insanely strong heavy attacks that actually out-damage the skill, and it even has a decent B in scaling, plus it looks just sick as hell. Its mostly magical focus also makes it an excellent weapon for most pure caster builds, especially since the strength soft cap is the same as the required stats, meaning it doesn't need strength to perform well. Plus, it gets a ton of poise health with its skill. Overall, it is a very loved weapon, but I personally think that it can pull weight that warrants a top 5 position, which is especially true because of its durability usage. Okay, never mind. It sucks. That durability usage on that heavy attack is just awful. Number 6, the Farron Greatsword. If style points were a weapon, it would look like this. A giant sword that can parry opponents and fling you around like a pit bull at a playground is just style points incarnate. Plus, it's actually good. This thing has multi-hits and high poise damage, plus a 20% extra damage bonus against abyssal enemies. I genuinely can't say it's all that bad. It even has a very early pickup from a very fun boss, and the moveset of the skill is genuinely blissful, to say the least. And parries are always a nice little cherry on top. Emphasis on the little, because it is not much. Number 5 is the Wolf Knight Greatsword. When I ranked this thing in my Greatsword video, I was not familiar with this thing's game. The skill, in particular, is where this weapon truly shines, even if the damage bonus is undefeatable to a downright criminal extent. How does this skill, a perfect skill with excellent range, damage, multi-hits, poise-eating, utility style, and area damage, beat out a 20% damage bonus? Oh, I just answered my own question. Skill aside, this is a good quality build weapon with a strong 20% punching power behind an already powerful attack power that genuinely just oozes damage. The skill is only the final nail that makes this thing just about perfect. Number 4, the Frayed Blade. This is the best katana there is. However, I actually need to make an apology. At No Limits, I was not actually the biggest Frayed Blade glazer, and I am sorry, but I could not put this at number 1. That being said, I still love this weapon to a cult-like degree. The skill especially just tickles me perfectly. It gets range on that skill with a slash combo that builds bleed and true combos into itself. And the bleed buildup is massive in addition to the damage, which is super high for katanas. Plus, it even gets good scalings and can use dark damage, which is a weakness of quite a few bosses and particularly knights. I know, I myself am sad that it is not the number 1, but it is really good regardless of how I place it on this list. At number 3, we have the Greatsword of Judgment. I love the heck out of this Blade of Death, and I firmly believe that it is the best strength intelligence weapon there is. A sword that gains range and a buff from its skill is unbelievable, plus a double hit that not only eats poise, but dishes out insane magic damage. Even if magic damage is pretty bad in Dark Souls 3, it doesn't matter when your skill is this torqued. And the skill isn't even the best part. That actually goes to the scalings and damage. The scalings are actually okay with int and strength, and the magic damage and physical damage are actually both really good against a lot of different enemies. Even though magic still sucks as a type, the damage amount is still good enough to pull weight. It's just reliable and straightforward, strong and powerful with excellent weight, power, and requirements that simply make the entire weapon delectable. Number 2, Freed's Great Scythe. A scythe that does frostbite instead of bleed buildup is actually way better than you would think. Bleed is good. Don't get me wrong. Okay, hold on. Do get me wrong. Bleed is not excellent. It's not even good. It's just okay. But frostbite does not have the same issues. In Dark Souls 3, bleed has been stomped into the ground with nerfs. Most bosses are either resistant or flat out immune to it, and even great bleed weapons don't do a ton of damage. And this is where frostbite enters the chat. Frostbite is significantly less seen in Dark Souls 3, with only a handful of weapons able to actually use Frostbite due to the lack of a Frostbite infusion. In addition, less bosses are resistant or immune to it compared to Bleed and Poison, making Frostbite the best status in Dark Souls 3. And this scythe dishes it out with 45 Frost buildup and a skill that not only attacks quickly to build up the status at a cost of 0 FP, but also can create an area of death that does extremely heavy Frost buildup and stance damage. Scythes in Dark Souls 3 are good, and this one is just better. It's a top tier weapon that deserves a perfect 100 points on any test it takes, and probably even beyond that. You're getting true hit combos, an excellent skill with great normal moveset too, a gorgeous look, and actually decent dex requirements. It also scales with A in both intelligence and dex, making it just astronomically overpowered. And it has the highest base damage out of all the scythes. Also, you're getting innate shield pierce and bonus damage if you hit people with the blade. Oh my gosh, I need to stop talking. I need to move on real quick because I'm just glazing this thing to death. I can't say enough good things about it. You gotta try it out. And number 1, you already know what it is. It's the Dragon Slayer Great Axe. I genuinely think that this thing needs to be stopped. If you watched the Great Axe video, I discussed this weapon at length, because even though this thing has split physical and lightning damage, its physical damage was the highest out of all the other axes except for the Black Knight Great Axe. And that was not including the lightning damage. Oh boy, how do I say that this thing is bad? You don't. It is bad for my mental state. It's not bad in the game. This is a beast. A unique skill that it just does even more damage. Like, if you were struggling for any kind of damage, here's more damage. That's nuts. Oh, and it can pancake enemies while dealing massive stance damage and has great poise health. Yeah, it has all of that. Good weight and requirements for its type? Yeah, that too. Oh, surely it doesn't even get good scaling. You're wrong. It gets okay scaling too. All of this adds up to make this axe one of the most evil and powerful weapons in the entire game of Dark Souls 3. There is so little competition. And lightning damage? I'll get into that in the weapon in like the damage type videos, but weapon damage is villainous. How do I even explain this thing, man? This thing deserves to be with the greatest weapons of all time, and it certainly deserves the seat of honor on this list. So, 29 weapons. And 29 weapons of this caliber and with this much of expectations on them, yeah, that's hard to rank. So I have actually been working on this video since I uploaded the Greatsword video. Yeah, it has been a long time. Even so, this ranking was tight because of how stacked some weapons are and how bad others can be. Looking at you, Rose of Ariandel. So thank you for sticking around and watching this list despite how lengthy it is. As always, happy hunting.